Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's so good to be here. Smashing Conf Freiburg 2022. Woo! It's like the pandemic looking at all of you, seeing all of you, I missed this. I missed the human connection. But I tell you what, seeing this and being part of this makes the last 2 years so insignificant because I'm with you now and I'm thankful for this. So let's just give it a round of applause for Recovery. Recovery. Now, I apologize, before I get into this talk, that song was so good. Can we hear it for Toby? Like, it's stuck in my head, so now I can't move forward without singing this. Can we do a little bit of a sing-along? Is that cool? If I remember, that's good, really good, and what's good is coming back again. Come on, sing. That's good, really good, and what's good is coming back again. Woo! That's good, really good, and what's good is coming back again. That's good, really good, and what's good is coming back again. Woo! Hey, thank you. Amazing, man. Appreciate y'all. See, I got that over with. Now I can move on with the talk. And there's a giant clock here telling me I wasted a bunch of time. But I don't think it's a waste. We vibed, right? I feel like that's what this conference is about. It's about the vibes. It's about the positive energy. It's about the wonder. It's about the curiosity. It's about the learning. But I see some of you are like, okay, just move on. Okay, I'm getting there. Hi, my name is Tejas. That's pronounced like advantageous for those of you who struggle with Tejas. In Spanish, it means tejas. It means roof tiles. I'm a roof tile, I guess, but two of them. Before the apocalypse, I used to say, hi, I'm Tejas, like contagious, but that, what can you do, you know? Advantageous just has more syllables, but anyhow, as Vitaly mentioned, I'm the Director of Developer Relations at Zeta. Zeta is spelled like data, but with an X for extended data. And I like that, that's funny, that's cool, I'll laugh with you. And what we do is we have one job, and that is to make the developer experience around databases phenomenal for web developers specifically. Like, we want to have the data, like, you know, if you're writing like SQL and you have to like have indexes and and joins, it gets complex. We're like, why? We want it to be simple and comfortable and really nice to work. If you've used Vercel for like deploying stuff, it's like that, but for databases. That's kind of what we try to do. That's like our one thing. Why I'm talking to you about this is because this talk very much comes out of a use case, out of a case study, work that we had to do to get to this pleasant experience we're trying to go for. And my hope is that in sharing a case study from our real-world experience, you'll come away with, you know, having learned a thing or two, and maybe some good vibes along the way. Does that sound okay? Awesome. So what we have is a problem. We have a database, and when you try to look at your data in a database, right, you could have any number of records in there. You could have 10, you could have 1,000,000, and then you meet the decision point. Okay, how do we deal with large sets of data in the browser? Do we paginate? Do we split it up into many pages? And if you have 1,000,000, you just click like next page, next page. But then there's problems with that, like how big should a single page be? Should it be configurable? Should we allow them to enter a free text input and choose 1,000,000 per page and then crash their browser and then they're mad and they're like, this is good developer experience, are you serious right now? No. So we had this decision point, pagination, infinite scroll, which one? Infinite scroll, of course, is where you scroll to the bottom and then when you get to the bottom it loads more and then you keep scrolling and scrolling. That's awesome. But the problem is, when you get to the bottom a lot and scroll a lot and append children to the DOM, the page a lot, browsers have finite memory compared to your infinite ability to scroll. If you're on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. And so at some point, what happens is you accumulate so many elements in your browser that it starts to get slow or even crash. So how do we deal with having millions of elements or having perceivably millions of elements in the browser, but really just having 10? right? And that is what we call virtual scrolling. Exactly that. Is you show a subset of a large set, but it feels like a large set. It's an illusion for good developer/user experience. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, when I get into it, I need to share with you Simon Sinek, I think, says leaders start with why or something like this. Now, I'm not interested in being a thought leader, but I like cool ideas. And I thought I'd start talking about this with my motivation. Like, why am I talking about this to you? And really, there's two reasons why I feel this is important to talk about this very specific thing at Smashing Conf Freiburg. Reason number one is a social motivation, is a cultural motivation. So how many of you work in a software team? Yeah, that's a lot. How many of you, keep your hand up if you work in a front-end team? Well, that's even more hands came up. Okay, I guess, thank you. I guess front-end is not software, so anyway. So if you work in this, you've probably done what I did. You have constraints, you have timelines, you have deadlines, you have whatever, and so you need to install like a UI library and use it. So what you do, you go, okay, npm install library, use it, awesome, done. Right? How many of you do this? You're just like npm install something and use it. Really, all these front-end developers and no one npm installs. Okay, stop lying to me. It's not anyway. So I've done this. I've npm installed, met my deadline, moved on. I see here, though, room for improvement in myself. Because what I do is I'll npm install something, I'll use it, but I won't really understand how it works. There's a lot of people who use React, and it's awesome, but a few people who understand how it works inside. A lot of people install virtual scrolling libraries, but few of us understand how we can go about implementing this. And it's not a bad thing, but I feel like we're missing out on the knowledge we can get by wondering how. Okay? So that's the social motivation. Number two is the technical motivation. As I said, this is a case study. This is something we had to do to meet technical limitations, like the browser's finite scrolling capabilities. In fact, instead of talking more about this, I'd rather show it to you with a demo. But before that, I need to be very clear here. The intention behind this talk, and I need you to look at me because it's important. The intention behind this talk is information that hopefully leads to transformation in your career, okay? It is education. I'm showing you the product we build for the case study, but this is not sales. If you leave here and you never use Zeta, I do not care. What I do care about is you take things with you that you can learn and put into practice at your jobs, okay? I need to be really upfront about that, because I'm about to show you something awesome. Anyway, let's go over here to the laptop, and if I can get my hands around this podium. This is what Zeta looks like. I apologize for the flash of high white light mode. In fact, we have a great feature. It's that one. And so this is what it looks like. I mean, it's alien to many of you, and it doesn't really matter. But for the purpose of this talk, to illustrate our case study, these are workspaces. They're like organizations in GitHub, like a team. And if I choose the learning workspace, we have some databases here. And I want to show you our need for virtual scrolling. Add a database. I'm going to create a shop. And in this database, my shop sells scooters. Why scooters? Because I really liked them as a kid growing up. Not these like e-scooters, but you know the analog ones, like a skateboard with handlebars. Anyway, and so each scooter, let's add some parameters. A scooter has a speed and maybe a sort order. So sort order. I'll just add a scooter for posterity. Speed 10, sort order 1. And now if I want to query this in my app, I'm just going to copy a JavaScript snippet and paste it in my console. And I get it, and that's cool, but it's like one record, right? This is my scooter here. The problem is if you have a lot of these, we don't want to have like a billion table rows. It will slow down the browser. So let's, just for learning, inject like 1 million records. If you're using things in production, please don't slam APIs like I'm about to. But so what we have here is a playground. So what I'm going to do is I'm creating an array from 1 million records. Okay. The second argument to array.from is a mapping function. So I'm mapping them into sort order and speed. And then I'm just going to insert them in batches of 1,000. Literally, look at this code. It's while something, create records. This can go very badly. So I'm creating a bunch of records here. And if I go look at my table, I should see some. OK, there's a lot of stuff. That's pretty. I think I can maybe stop inserting before I destroy the service. And so now we have a lot of records. We have, I don't know, how many do we have? Let's sort this in like descending order. We have like, okay, 15,000. That should be enough for demo. And as I scroll, you'll notice there's not really 15,000 DOM elements here. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's about 10. But it looks like there's 15,000. There's a few problems we ran into implementing this, and I could scroll all day, literally. There's a few problems with this approach, though, which I just want to be upfront about. The first one is you see the size of the scroll bar here. It's pretty large. It doesn't tell you there's 15,000 because it's so wide, it looks like there's a lot. And the second thing is, as I scroll to the end, watch what happens to that scroll bar. It jumps and like halves in size. That's not really good, UX or accessibility. And also, a couple of things. If I try to just like jump to the bottom, pretend you don't see this. If I just try and jump to the bottom, watch what happens. I go to the bottom, and then it just jumps back up. I feel like it's a little bit deceptive because I don't really know where the bottom is. Can we do better? So that's just to show you some of the technical motivation for talking about this and sharing things we've learned, okay? Can we do better? The answer is probably maybe. So what I'd like to do in our time together is just build that with you, collaboratively. We write some code and see how it goes. Okay? Again, the purpose is just learning. Even if it goes wrong, whatever. We sang a song. That's enough for me. So what I'm going to do is, this is my terminal. I'm just going to make a directory called smashingconf, cd into that, npm init, a new project. And so I did say this would be vanilla JavaScript. It won't. I mean, the things that we're doing with virtual scrolling, the logic we write does translate to vanilla JavaScript, and I'll allude to that. But this is a 35-minute talk, and it's just more efficient to use JSX and React. So I will be using React, but the principles of virtual scrolling will be clear for you in vanilla. Okay? Sure. Is that big enough? Is there enough contrast? OK, the side screens are probably better for you. So we'll npm install just some dependencies. And let's test this conference Wi-Fi. And we'll open the editor here. And now we have an editor with literally nothing. So we'll make a new, is this font size? If the font size is bad, just shout. Be like, hey, I can't see. Pages index.tsx. If you've written React before, we're just exporting a component here. Nothing too scary. We'll return. Come on, Copilot. Oh, awesome. Thank you. So we'll return like h1. Yeah, instead of hello world, let's make it personal, right? Smashing conf. And then we'll have that be the export default. We'll export that to our framework of choice, Next.js, and then it'll do whatever it does. And let's save. Oops, I do not want to close. Let's save that, and we'll npm next dev. That'll spin up a local server, and we should. OK, we have hello smashing conf. Nice. Thank you, whoever did that. Nice, but there's no data. What's the deal? Let's get some data into this. You could use the fetch API if you want. There's many ways you could do this. For the sake of Next.js efficiency, I'm just doing this. Copilot, I love you. Ooh, OK. This makes live coding way faster. So what we want, right, is we want data from somewhere. And we want to return data as props from this function that would then be inserted as data here. That's the goal. But where do we get this data from? We could use fetch. But again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to use our tool. So if I run here zeta init, it will automatically give me whatever I want. So it was the learning one. It was the shop, I believe. So this will generate TypeScript code for me, so I don't really need to write anything myself. And really, the goal here is virtual scrolling. So all of this scaffolding stuff, let's get it out of the way. So I have that. So now I can fetch data using it. Get Zeta client, I think. OK. There's also some configuration I need to do. My goal here is to move fast through the configuration because this is about virtual scrolling, right? I just need to tell it these are node modules explicitly. And now I can get my data. So I can do const data is await my client.db.scooters.get many. And that's my data. In fact, I want a lot of data because we're talking about virtual scrolling. So what I'm going to do is I want size to be 200. And now I have data in my thing here. So let's use a table to visualize this. TR, TD. I want two things. I want the speed, and I want the sort order. Okay. Let's iterate through data. Just map it into these things. I hope this is followable so far. If it's not, yell at me. The unique key of this is the item's ID. This is actually items. I could just do item dot, and I could do item dot speed. This is kind of what I want. Does it work though? Let's save, reload. Let's npx next dev, and now we should have. Okay, cool. We have data. Whatever that is, I don't know. But here, this looks all right. The problem is I don't like the way it looks. And I tell you what, I feel a bit, I'm here with all of you like designers and typeface experts, and I can't live with myself if it looks like this. So I'm gonna look at Pico. If you've heard of Pico CSS, it's phenomenal. It's just like a drop-in style sheet, just to give us a little bit of aesthetic. I'm gonna plug that in here to my head tag, and we'll just paste that and just close it out. Okay, it's at least presentable. So now I have a bunch of these things. Looks good, and we have 200 elements. What I want to implement is virtual scrolling. So I want to actually at any given time have like 15 elements in the DOM, and then as I scroll, it on the fly replaces them with the next 15. Magic. That's kind of what I want to create. Okay. If we open the inspector, what we'll see in the element tree is, if let's inspect this thing. We have TRs. Can you see that, the TR tags here? We have like 200 of them. The goal is to have 15, but have it feel like there's 200. How do we go about that? To go about that, we need to implement a technique. First of all, there's multiple ways. I'm doing a 35-minute talk one, but you could use Canvas, you could use whatever you want. The technique we'll be looking at is called windowing, where you create a window that is a finite size container. You scroll in that thing, and then on the scroll event, you swap stuff. So to start with, we need a window. Let's create one. So how we can do that is first let's define a maximum size for our window. We'll say it's, I don't know, 600 maybe. And we'll wrap this table in a div. You can see how this maps to HTML plain, right? That's why I chose JSX. And what we'll do is we'll say style is the height is the window height. And we'll hide the overflow for my CSS people, overflow auto. And now, cool, we have a window. That's all right. We can scroll in it. And the cool thing about this is the scroll bar is actually the right size and everything. I want you to keep that in mind, because we'll revisit that. The thing is, we haven't really solved any problem yet, because there's still 200 elements in the browser. So now what we need to do is mathematics. We need to find out. So now, let me just sort this by sort order, because like this 1 and 1002 and stuff like this doesn't really give me a nice vibe. So let me just quickly sort this. Sort by sort order. And we'll say desk, or ask, actually. This is, OK, let's do something like that. Right, and now if I reload, I should have a nice sequence. OK, this is much better. This looks all right. So now I have 200, and it's going in order. Before we implement virtual scrolling, I want to show you what happens if we don't, OK? So let's try. So instead of data, what we'll have is mock data, which is basically data, but a lot of it. So if we go back to where we generated some data here, we'll copy this million element array, assign it to mock data. Keep in mind, we now have an index, so an ID. And this looks good. So instead of data, we'll pass mock data to our component. And now watch this. We're trying to render 1 million rows in the browser. So this is why we decided we need virtual scrolling. First of all, that's just going to spin, trying to get that many objects into memory. And eventually, it'll just fail. So yeah, blank screen. Awesome. Welcome to the web. And if we wait enough time for it to render, will it not? Ooh, decision point. Snap, yeah. No shoot. So that's the problem. So if we go back to data, all good. We have our 200. Let's work with this and implement virtualization. How do we do that? We need mathematics. So what we want is, you see now in this viewport, right, in this window, you see rows 1 through 13. What we want is if you scroll a bit, so if you scroll now and the first element is 14, it shouldn't have the same upper bound. It shouldn't end at 200, but it should end at 200 plus 14. So whatever you scroll past, we get rid of, and so the thing that's in the viewport becomes the first thing. Does that make sense? Right? So let's do that with some mathematics. Firstly, what I want to do is limit the amount of TRs to like 20. So let's do const, limit, say 15, and or let's say 20 just for fun. And what we'll do is we'll immediately return a subset of our data. We'll slice it into limit numbers. So now, we just have 20, 1 to 20. It's fixed range. What I want is if I scroll down, and now 9 is the first one, I want to get rid of 1 through 8, and I want to have this, what you see in the window, be 9 through 29. I want to remove and then add at the bottom. So that's the technique we're going for. How can we do that? To do that, we need to respond to the scroll event on our window. In vanilla JavaScript, you do document or container.addEvent listener scroll. Here, what we're going to do is we're just going to add it here to our div on scroll. We get the event, and we set the scroll top to the event's current target's scroll top. We just keep this in memory. This is React because we're using state, but in JavaScript, you can just store this in a variable. So we'll do scroll top, and set scroll top is use state of 0. 0 is the default scroll top. And just to make it visible, we'll add an h2 and say you've scrolled past scroll top pixels. So now if we scroll this, we know how far we've scrolled. Step 1, done. Now we need to know how many rows we've scrolled past. There's many ways you can do this. For the sake of time, I'm doing the method where you take how much you've scrolled in pixels, and you divide that by the height of the rows. Logically, so let's do that. For that, our rows need a definitive height. We can see through the inspector that they're about 47.25 pixels tall. Let's just make that Facebook official. I don't know why I said that. And we'll say the rows are 48, and we'll enforce that with a style attribute here, just for safety. This is live coding. Things can go wrong. I'm not going to mess around. OK, so now they get a little bit bigger, but they all have a definitive size. Good. So now let's find out how many rows we've scrolled past. So what we'll do is const scrolled past is Copilot. I love you. I don't even write this anymore. OK, so it's how much we've scrolled past divided by the height of the rows. And we do math.floor because otherwise it's going to be too precise. Let's just, for learning, let's see, and let's add this to the DOM as well. This many pixels or scrolled past rows. So now, that's working, but it's maybe a bit too precise. So math.floor is our friend. And we'll just wrap that like that. Oops. Cool. And now we know we've scrolled past these many rows. Phenomenal. So now all we need to do is when you scroll past 8 rows, remove the first 7 and add 8 at the bottom. And logically, we should be there, yes? I've lost all of you. It's fine. You can, who said, something said? Anyway, so let's remove so in this scenario here, if we remove the first 6 and add 6 to the bottom and keep going, we have virtual scrolling. Let's take a look at that in practice. What we're going to do is where we slice from 0 to limit, we'll have it grow. We'll do infinite scrolling first. Instead of limit, we'll do past rows. Is it past rows? Scrolled past. We'll do scrolled past plus limit. So now when it's 0, we're going to see 0 to 20. But as we scroll, we'll keep getting more and more. Let's reload that and see what we get. So scroll. And we have infinite scrolling now. So you can notice I'm just going to my 200. And you'll notice the scroll bar is getting smaller because the content's getting bigger. In fact, if we look at this in the DOM here, you can actually see table rows appear. You see that? This is infinite scrolling. And it's pretty cool, except at some point we're going to have way too many table rows, and then it'll hang and then crash, and we're almost there. We just need to remove the stuff you've scrolled past. So to do that, instead of starting from 0, we'll start from scrolled past. Now, logically, in a perfect world where everything works right the first time, this should work. Let's scroll and see what happens. And I want you to pay attention to this inspector on the right. So Some type of dance party happening in my browser. I don't. So what's happening there? So what's happening is we're slicing the array. So when you scroll, we're removing the top, which means what's changing? The scroll top is changing. And when the scroll top is changing, what's happening is very rapidly, it's removing what you've passed, but then the scroll top changes, so it adds it back, and then it removes it, and that's the flickering you're seeing here. In fact, if you look up on the elements tree, the top node here is being removed and added rapidly because the scroll top keeps changing. Another problem with this approach is the scroll bar here lies to you. It's way too long. It's too long for 200 rows. We're about to do what I love doing at work, which is solving two problems at once. We're going to solve the size of the scroll bar to make it tell the truth, and this weird flicker issue, because both these problems arise by the window not being the right size. The table needs to have the height of as if it had 200 elements, but at the same time, it needs to not have 200 elements. Mystery. How we do that is using what I call the sandwich technique, because I miss sandwiches. And how it works is you have your 20 rows. Above that, you add a table row, just a ghost row, that is of height 0 in the beginning, but as you scroll past certain rows, this thing's height grows and takes up the size of the rows that you've removed. So the height stays constant. Does that make sense? So if you scroll past 1,000 pixels, that first row becomes 1,000 pixels to keep the scroll top consistent. Similarly, we add, I call it sandwich because we add a bottom bun or slice, another table row, that is the full height of the table minus the window size. So your scroll container is actually quite large, and your scroll bar doesn't lie. I know this sounds confusing, but we'll do this in practice, and I'll show you. So here's what we're going to do. I have 8 minutes left. What? So we'll add a table row here. That's our top slice of bread. We'll add our bottom one. And this thing's going to have a height of start row height. That's, of course, undefined. We shall define it. It's all good. The height here is end row height, okay? Let's define those somewhere up top. So how do we compute the start row height? It's basically the height of all the things you've scrolled past. So we'll do const start row height is, exactly, I love Copilot. It's what you've, it's the number of rows you've scrolled past times the height of each row. And we'll do end row height similar. Come on, Copilot. That's wrong. So it tried, but failed. It's the number of rows times their height, right, minus the window size, and also minus the starting row height. So this is our formula. So now if you look over here, let's reload this page, actually, just for posterity. And we have, this is our DOM. So we have 22 rows now, right? The first one of height 0. The bottom one of height 9,000. That is our 200 elements, rather. And you notice the size of the scroll bar is very small. It's as if we have 200 elements, but we don't. So now as I scroll, what's going to happen is I scroll smoothly and infinitely, or virtually. You notice the number of elements here doesn't change, right? But what's changing is the start row is taking up all the height of the ones we've scrolled past. The bottom one is shrinking as the top one grows. And what we have in the middle is the rows we actually want to see. And we can do this as much as we want. We just keep scrolling, and what you'll notice over here is that the bottom ones are being replaced on the fly, and there's some virtual scrolling for you. Now, as we scroll up, the same thing happens, but the top ones get replaced, and nobody notices. It feels like there's 200, but there isn't. In fact, I can scroll really fast, and wow, look at that. In fact, I can grab this thing and go straight to the bottom. Ooh, that is unintended. Whoa. I got a bit trigger happy. Let's try jumping. OK, so I do jump to the bottom, and I do get my 200. I need to investigate why that happened after. This actually is great for my ending. Anyway, so 200. This works. Let's bring back that mock data where we tried 1,000,000 just to see what happens. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all my dynamic stuff. Work with just the static mock data here. Instead of 1,000,000, let's start with 200, but maybe let's add a 0. So 2,000. What do we have? Let's reload. And it looks pretty smooth. There's still 20, but we're doing 2,000. If I scroll to the bottom, what do I have? OK, I'm getting close to 2,000. Yeah, this is about 2,000 there. Nice. Let's add another 0, 20,000. Can it handle it? So we scroll, we scroll, we scroll. Let's drag this thing. OK, yeah, we're getting to 20. Oh, this bug, I need to investigate that. Whatever. If somebody has an idea, shout it out. You'll get a prize. And then lastly, there's 200,000. Let's just go 2 million. Why not? Can we do 2 million? Now, this is going to take long, probably, to allocate all the objects and stuff like this. But I kind of want to see 20 rows, but it's actually 2 million. Can we do it? Yeah, it looks pretty good so far. Thank you. And if let's just really just fast track this thing. And we're coming up on the bottom here, but look, it ends at, what is that? 699,051. What? That's not 2 million. And then if I scroll, I'm actually like at the bottom. I cannot scroll more. What is going on? Anyone have an idea? OK, let's try something. Maybe it's just Chrome. Let's try Safari, what Apple calls the fastest browser in the world. The fastest browser with no PWA support. Anyway, so let's load this thing and let's scroll to the bottom here. I mean, it seems to work. The bottom is 699,051, and there's some like weird layout issues. What's that about? Let's try Firefox. Oh, this is, I don't know why, on port 3000 it loads something else, but then I hard reload and it loads my page. Hey, if you work at Firefox on caching, the issue. Anyway, so here we are. And then, same thing. Let's scroll to the bottom. And here, it's not even 600,000. Oh, it's not the bottom. OK, it's even worse. It's like fighting me. But let's go to the bottom here. And it's nowhere. Look, we're close to the bottom, but it's like 300,000. What is going on? I don't get it. And so in our case study of implementing this, I was like, what? How? Why? Now, I've seen browsers behave differently like this in the past. And in this scenario, fun fact, you know why I don't have any hair anymore? It's because I tore it out with this kind of thing. I did some research. In this scenario where I was frustrated and confused, I did what all of us do. What is that? What is that when you have no answer to your question? That? Thank you. Who said that? You get a prize. Exactly. I Stack Overflowed, and I found this question. Do the browsers have a maximum height for the body or document? It was posted a long time ago, but it was modified a year ago. I'm interested. The verified answer. See, if you learned nothing in the stock, I'm hoping you learned that, because I didn't know that. There's a limit on the height. And it varies between browsers. So in one, it's like 6 million, whatever, and another, it's what? And so that is where we find ourselves. How do we solve this? This is where I tie up the talk. I leave you in suspense. But I want you to know that there's a limit. Now, there's multiple ways you can work around this, just to appease you. There's an awesome library called AGGrid that is open source, and they solve it in an interesting way. They don't even use tables. They use divs and make them look like tables. Because divs, you can position absolute. So one hack is you have this massive div, and then position absolute top. The top attribute is minus the height, and then you have another massive div down there. There's hacks. You can work around it. This is for you to figure out, and this is a hard limitation with browsers, OK? I have like 2 minutes left, so let's wrap up. Let's talk about what just happened. It started with a need for a lot of data, to have a lot of data but make it feel fast and performant without anyone noticing the illusion. We did that with math. We calculated how many we've scrolled past, and we kept a constant height with the sandwich technique. And lastly, we ran into a hard limit in the browser. Okay. With that, I want to talk about takeaways. Now, the takeaways I want to talk to you about are, this was a very technical talk. Do you agree? I want the takeaways to be not as like code-based, but culture-based, because there are two motivations. One social or cultural, and one technical. These are more social, and I think they can really help the way we work. They've helped me. I've put them into practice, and I'm just sharing them with you because they could help you. Number one is wake up the wonder. You see, like I'm guilty of this, where I sometimes will install a new stuff without wondering how it works, without being curious. Let me tell you something. Smashing Conf, curiosity doesn't kill the cat. There's a lot of cats in Smashing. They're still alive, and I think they're curious. Okay? Wonder is phenomenal. Like just this, like how does this work? I want to implement this myself. I think this is really important in our careers, in my career personally, because without wonder, how can life be wonderful? You know what I'm saying? Number 2, know your limits. Like, we knew making a database spreadsheet UI, we knew there was going to be limits, and it was important to us to know them before our users found them and then complained. So whenever we start something, we try to do our due diligence, and that's what we have. And the third one, build or buy. Why not both? So I've been around engineering circles long enough to have this question. Do we build this in-house, or do we buy something that exists? Buying is awesome, and I say buy deliberately, because I think if you work for a for-profit company, you should pay for open source. Just a hot take, I don't know. It's an underfunded, underappreciated type of work. So buy when there's deadlines, but I also want to encourage building to understand, kind of like we did here. Did we learn something? I did. So build and buy, I think, is the key. And with that, Smashing Conf 2022, you've been phenomenal. I want to thank you so much for your time and for your patience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tejas. Would you like to join me?
Yeah.
Oh, you can throw another one.
Ah, who wants a unicorn? Oh, can I throw that far? I cannot.
We can
erase that from the
we
live
have
stream.
more chuckles. We can throw a bit more in the moment.
This is comfortable, man.
Yeah.
I like this couch.
It's very cozy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's close. I want to be closer.
We just sit like this, like whatever.
This could be the conference. Just casual chat.
Like a casual chat, like fire. You have a fireside chat, like romantic music.
Yes, food,
nice.
Candles.
Yes, so we have a couple of questions that came up in here. One is, what's wrong with pagination?
Nothing. Nothing at all. It's fantastic. I mean, Smashing, you paginate, no?
Yeah, we do both. No, we don't have anything to scroll, actually. That's right.
It's just trade-offs.
For tables, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. For tables, how do you paginate on a table? I mean, it's a single cohesive thing you scroll. So we kind of felt like, you know, like people like scrolling. And if you go to a separate page, it can interrupt your scroll flow.
Yeah.
So
one question came up that, that's funny. How can you not have a single typo in your code as you were typing it live?
I've been doing this he said I've been doing this since I was 8 years old.
You need to tell us a bit more. Like, you've been coding like since you were 8.
Yeah, not professionally,
or
of
like
course.
React since you were 8?
No, I'm not that young. No, but I've been doing JavaScript, and I started with, this may be a hot take in some circles, but my first programming language was HTML. And some people are like, that's not a programming language. I'm like, we're not friends. And then, you know, of course, you find CSS and then JavaScript and so on. But yeah.
Yeah, all right. OK, well, there are a few questions that came up in here. Some of them are technical, so I do have to ask.
Sure.
Is that OK for you?
Yeah.
What if the lines don't all have the same height?
This is awesome. Whoever asked this, I like you. Because in that section where I said, wake up the wonder, I was actually going to give you 3 things to wonder about as you leave. And one of them is this. How would you do it with variable height rows? You could do something with like element.get bounding client rect, compute the height, then compute the height of all the things you've scrolled past. You can do that. It's going to be expensive, but that's an option. There's also, that's one way, and that's for you to wonder about. But the other way, some of the best like data grid libraries will not even use tables or divs at all, but everything's in a canvas. And they have a layout algorithm. It looks like a table. It has all the interactivity, but it's an HTML canvas. And the benefit of that is 60 frames per second, GPU-driven, buttery smooth. That's an option, but there's trade-offs. Big-time accessibility. So with the trade-offs with the dynamic heights is performance, because you're computing a lot more. And the trade-offs with Canvas is 100% accessibility. Yeah. And you can do the best you can. You can add ARIA attributes everywhere in your canvas, but it's not the same as a semantic table.
Yeah.
So yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think that it seems like you've been writing code a long time, of course, but you also have discovered a new friend when you're typing, which would be Copilot.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of tweets about, oh, I want to try CodePilot now. So a kind of more general question around that as well. So how do you actually, in a bigger team, especially when you get to a bigger team, how do you write better code? And what about keeping the code maintainable over time? Is the only answer documentation?
Yeah, that's a good question. About better code, I don't know what that means. Because better means different things to different people. But maintainable code is a good one. How do you write something that's maintainable? For me, I try to write things that are small. Like, I think really React is very popular because it does one job. It doesn't give itself like the Angular problem, right? Of like factories and services and routers and all of this. Just like, no, UI, rendering, done. So about maintainable code, I do single responsibility principle is a big one. I'm just like, this function does this. And I like the declarative approach, where I'll name a function like do stuff. So there's no questions about like, what does this do? And about maintainable code, this may be controversial. I apologize if you're a Java developer, but I avoid classes usually, because a class is like you could have a class human, but what does it do, right? Like, I don't know what this does. Can it eat? Can it drink? Versus my alternative that I prefer is single declarative functions that are named after what they do. Verbs, get data, render data. So then you can even test them, like unit test them, and know that, okay, it's expected that this thing does this. So.
Right, okay, that makes sense. Another technical question that came up, with virtual scrolling, how would a user copy all the data from the table?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we render in that tree, we did data.slice.map, right? You remember that? So we sliced from one index to another, and that's how we did the virtualization. The interesting thing to note there is, I'm heavy, I moved this couch. The interesting thing to note there is that we have access to data. We have all the data at memory. So with the question being, how do you copy all the data? You could have a JavaScript function, copy to clipboard, and as an argument, give it your 200 rows.
Yeah, exactly. OK, well, more questions came up. One is about, how do you see JavaScript ecosystem evolving? Next.js has been widely adopted. Jamstack has created this whole new industry around itself. Is it where we are, or is it going to change over time? It's
a great question. Yeah, it has been changing, right? It has been, like, since, I think back to when React was introduced to today. It's a different universe. Yes. Like, there's the evolution of frameworks. Like you said, Next.js is evolving fast and is actually now becoming more of an industry standard. There's an amazing talk by Jeremy Keith about pace layers. I highly recommend watching this because it talks about how tech evolves over time and how some things get settled in sediment more than others and become foundational. And I feel like React is slowly becoming, because like even now the Chrome dev team is working on first-class support for React. So yeah, it's going that way. And I think the future, at this point anyway, or the present, is about frameworks. Like Next.js, there's Remix, there's SvelteKit. I think the future is going to be even, and what's happening is the level of abstraction is getting higher and higher and higher. Yeah. And now, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm curious, tweet at me with how you feel about this. Like, there's sometimes engineers who will come in and join my React team, but don't know JavaScript, but do know React. And I feel like that's awesome that people are finding jobs, but at the same time, it's a bit hard to communicate because we come from this like JavaScript first, then React thing. And it's an interesting time in the industry to think about how we navigate this and teach people what's missing and so on, which makes my job fun because I do get to teach stuff.
Right. Do you write in jQuery?
I do, yeah. And it's funny you say that because jQuery was a standard for a long time. It's still used. I think it's the most used library still.
Yeah. Like if you look at the data, I think like React is 4%, 4.5%, something. jQuery is 86%.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild.
Yeah.
But the reason I think jQuery is not as like hyped anymore is because it just became part of the platform. Document.querySelector, more or less, for many purposes, can replace jQuery. Even in the Chrome console, the $ is an alias to document.querySelector, so like, hello. And I think this may happen with React. It could, but I also see another divergence where like there's web components that are part of the platform that follow the encapsulation model of React. Yeah, so it could go both ways. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, well, maybe the last question here, and then we can jump into the, I'm sure there will be more questions coming to you when you're at the stand. So you travel a lot. You do travel a lot. I mean, a lot. How do you make sure you're productive and keep healthy? What are your super tricks?
Ooh, okay, so I apologize if this is too much, but I've been working in developer relations, DevRel, for a while. And it sounds fun. It is fun to be like, dude. Like I literally I'm leaving here and then I'm going to another conference. And conferences usually there's a pre-party, there's these like awesome dinners and socializing, and then there's a post-party and parties and karaoke and music. And if you're not careful, you can shipwreck your life.
This sounds exciting.
Seriously, like if you're not careful, you travel so much, and the thing is, it's high adrenaline, it's high energy, you're constantly excited, and you're talking to new people, and you're eating all this food and drinking all this alcohol, and that's something I had to learn, to have self-control, to have boundaries, to have balance. So now when I travel, or generally, I try to avoid alcohol and make certain decisions about how I eat and stuff, because it's important. I literally eat a certain way so that my energy levels are constant and not like this. All of it is tailored to having me be happy, healthy, and productive. And I'm happy to share like specifics of it with you later, but I want to be sensitive to people who maybe have allergies or thyroid conditions, or like I'm not one to give medical advice. Yeah. But the tricks to also work-life balance is key, because in my line of work, I flew here on a Sunday. You know what I mean? But Sunday's the weekend. You can't work on a weekend. So I have to learn and had to learn to keep healthy boundaries, and that is to be able to recognize, okay, this is as far as work goes, no more. And this time is sacred for my family. Yeah. Because we tend, I don't know if you're like me, but I tend to want to go the extra mile usually and like give a lot for work because it's interesting. Virtual scrolling, let's unit test this, let's go next level, next level.
It's very exciting.
It's exciting. Thanks. But I need to learn to say, okay, I've spent an hour, I've run exactly the number of miles I want to, well, I'm not going the extra mile because my partner deserves the extra mile. You know what I'm saying? So like learning that was a key trick as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what's the next big thing for you? Do you have like a big goal in front of you where you want to be, or you want to get, what you want to learn, what you want to get better at?
That's a great question. Actually, I think no.
So with virtual scrolling done, it's like
I'm not saying like I'm done with life and I'm not looking forward to anything. But what I am saying is, it's been such a ride. I'm really thankful to be like where I am right now. And I find like a lot of my friends, unfortunately, are like chasing that next thing. Oh, I can't wait for this, and then I'll be happy. But I'm really happy like right now. And whatever comes is going to be awesome, I'm sure. So.
Excellent. Well, with this in mind, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you.